Unified School District. Thank you all for coming on this lovely summer evening. Hope you're all enjoying the summer so far. Do we have a volunteer to lead us in the pledge? Joy, would you like to do it? Oh, great, thanks.
That was like this. I've been volunteering. You've been volunteering. Spanish. Whatever you like. Just kidding. Just kidding. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Joy. It takes us to item 7, adoption of agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to adopt? So moved. A second? Oh, great. Yeah, I was going to say. We'll take turns. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. Item 8, we have none. Item 9, comments from the public related to items not on this agenda. Do we have any? No green sheets. Okay, we are moving on. Item 10, representative reports. CUTA? Kathy, are you making? No comments. Okay. You're done. Okay. Diane?
It's on. Okay. Good evening, school board, Superintendent Euster, Assistant Superintendent Corey, CBO Crystal Leach, and Joy Dargnell. CSEA would like to thank all those at the negotiating table in the last 2 weeks for their diligence, and we're happy to say that our group ratified the contract and hope you accept it. Enjoy your summer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. It brings us to item 11, reports, information, and presentations. 11A, receive an overview from TBWB Strategies and EMC Research on the process to assess the feasibility to pursue a general obligation bond. Jane, do you want to introduce or?
So we contacted TBWB. As you know, TBWB has, for all of the both parcel tax and bonds that this district has done, TBWB has been our consultant guiding us as to feasibility and through the process of very successful campaigns. So we contacted TBWB to talk to us again about the feasibility of potential bond moving forward. And tonight they'll deliver their preliminary results. There was a committee that came together, I should say a committee of public, community, teachers union, classified, and together with management that came together to work together to create this initial survey that went out and also heard the first round of results. So tonight to the governing board is presented the result after it has been through the public committee first.
Good evening, everyone. Joy Tatarka, TBWB Strategies. So as the superintendent mentioned, we did meet as a committee. We worked on a draft of the poll. The poll was completed, and Jessica from EMC Research is here, and she's going to go ahead and give some of the initial numbers and results, and then we'll give our recommendation at the end.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Polsky from EMC Research. I'm going to launch right into the presentation. Can everybody hear me okay?
Can you hear on the TV as well?
Okay. Okay, so just a couple notes on the methodology before we launch into the full results. This was a mixed mode survey conducted both via telephone interviews and online interviews among voters in the Cabrillo Unified School District. We did complete 463 interviews, some of which were by on the web and some were by phone. The interviews were conducted in early May, and we have done a number of polls of voters in the district on behalf of the district in the past. So you'll see on this slide a table of those past surveys, and you'll see some comparisons, some tracking data collected over time so we can gauge whether opinions have changed over time. First, a few notes on the key findings from the research. We do see that voters in the district are committed to high-quality education, public schools for the area. Many do indicate through these results an awareness of the need for facilities improvements for the schools. We do see the good news, support for a $99 million bond measure is above the 55% threshold that's needed for passage. We do see that high priorities for the district align well with priorities among voters, replacing leaky roofs, facilities maintenance, safety repairs. These are among the top priorities for voters. Local control, so maintaining local control over funds and strong accountability measures that go along with a potential ballot measure are very important components of a potential measure and themes that resonate well with the community. Start us off with a few ratings. So we asked voters whether or not they had children in school. Please rate each of the following as excellent, good, only fair, or poor. So you can see those excellent percentages in the dark blue. The Cabrillo Unified School District in general, 6% excellent and 37% good. So overall, a little bit better on the excellent and good compared to the only fair and poor ratings. The overall safety of schools and grounds, 11% excellent, 39% good, and smaller numbers on the negative side. The quality of teachers in the district, also net positive ratings. The quality of education, net mostly positive ratings. When it comes to the quality of facilities in the district, you do see some higher percentages on the only fair or poor ends. Particularly if you see those brackets on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see when we look at the numbers among parents of students currently attending the schools, not only is awareness of the quality of facilities higher overall, you see much smaller percentages of respondents who are parents saying they don't know on these questions, but you'll see the 63% on the negative end, so some awareness among the voter community overall, and especially parents, for the need for facilities improvements. Then we have a few more ratings, the district's financial management. What stands out about that rating is the very large percentage in gray that really can't answer one way or another. And then we do have some negative ratings, which is very common for public agency ratings among voters. Same thing with the management of bond money, large percentage, 47%, who really just can't say one way or another. So we have, as I mentioned, some comparisons to what we've seen in survey results over time, and you can see the numbers on the top for 2017, 44% rate the district in general as excellent or good, 33% as only fair or poor. And when you compare that to what we've seen over time, what really stands out on this slide is the increase in the percentage who say don't know. The ratio of positive to negative is quite similar, and we attribute in part the increase in the don't know there to the change in methodology. This was a mixed mode survey, and surveys in the past on behalf of the district have been conducted only over the phone. And so there is a tendency when voters see a don't know response as an option in front of them, they're more likely to choose it than they would be over the phone. So that's mostly what we attribute the change to here. And then some other tracking of ratings over time in the quality of education, the quality of teachers, quality of facilities, overall safety of schools and grounds, the management of bond money, and the financial management. So you can see what also stands out here is the increase in that don't know response, which again, is partly possibly because of the methodology. The ratios of positive to negative are somewhat consistent when it comes to quality of education, the quality of teachers. Facilities, however, we see the same percentage on the negative side, 44% only fair or poor, and the positive side has gone down, so maybe some change there that we can detect despite the change in methodology. And then you can see, again, a decrease in the ratings on safety of school grounds as well.
Typically, is there a correlation between a perception of poor facilities in these surveys with a higher success rate for cost cutting?
That's a really good question, and it depends. The answer really depends. I think, in some cases, voters will want to see, voters will say, oh, you've got beautiful facilities, everything looks beautiful, I want to maintain that, and I'm willing to support a measure. So we do see sometimes, even when ratings are quite high willingness to support increased funding for facilities. In this case, I think what we're going to see when we show you the results on the potential measure is that there is an awareness of a need for improvements and therefore a willingness to contribute money for that. So a few notes on the sort of issue environment. We usually ask kind of a warm-up question to start off the survey. Do you think things in the Coastside are generally going in the right direction, or have things gotten pretty seriously off on the wrong track? It's a common question that you'll see in polls conducted all over the country. It's really to gauge overall optimism and pessimism, and it doesn't, we ask it before we mention anything about local schools. So this is not about schools, this is overall sentiment. And that blue line there trends the percentage who say right direction. The red line tracks the percentage who say things are off on the wrong track. So things are down. You can see on the far end of the slide for 2018, only 40% say right direction, and roughly 30% wrong track, down since the last time we measured on that question in 2013 with 59% who were quite optimistic. What we've done on this slide is we've overlaid that with past elections where the district has put a measure on the ballot, so you can see that despite the fluctuation in overall optimism and pessimism, we've still seen measures pass, particularly in 2012 when optimism was at a little bit of a low point at 46%. You still saw that the bond measure on the ballot in 2012 passed.
It's that mic.
Sorry. No worries.
We're just gonna go without it. Sorry about that. No, we're getting a feedback across the
I
loop.
thought we might be, and that's why I moved it, but it's the mic itself, I think. It's a wireless, so.
Yeah, can you all, so just enunciate, and I'm sorry, it won't be as good on the sound.
I'll pick
here,
her
but-
up with this one.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, so on these, a couple of attitudinal questions around taxes and the value of local public schools. Do you agree or disagree it is crucial to have high-quality local public schools, even if it means raising taxes? This year, when we asked that, 77% agree. That's overwhelming. Over 3/4 agree it is worth it to raise taxes for local public schools. Also, do you agree or disagree taxes are already too high? I would never vote for a tax increase, no matter how it might be used. 35% do agree with that, compared to 27% last time we asked the question in 2012. But really, the vast majority, 62%, disagree with that. So the combination of those two attitudinal questions is actually very encouraging for us. It shows that people are very willing to support, especially local public schools. It's a value shared by the community. And then, do you agree or disagree? I trust the Cabrillo Unified School District to properly manage tax dollars. This year, when we asked that question, 47% agree and 34% disagree. So some distrust, but still a sufficient number here. The number is a little bit down since 2012 on trust in the district, with the don't know percentage up to 19 from 9% back in 2012. We also asked this question to gauge perception of need for additional funding for the district. Would you say the schools in the district have a great need for more money, some need, a little need, or no real need for more money? Overall, today we see 43% say a great need and 27% some need. Only 11% say no need and 3% a little need. That compares with 59% who said a great need back in 2012 and 21% some need. So the intensity has gone down a little bit on this measure, but what's interesting that you can see on this slide is among current district parents, who represent 17% of our overall sample, there's overwhelming consensus. 70% say there's a great need for additional funding, and 21% some need. Almost no parents are saying there's not a need for additional funding. Compared with those who don't have children attending the schools in the district right now, that's 83% of the sample who are much less aware of the need for additional funding. So that shows us, the vast majority of voters aren't quite as aware as those whom you might hear from on a more regular basis. So it's something to keep in mind when you gauge the general environment and awareness. We also asked another awareness question. Have you heard or seen anything recently about the Cabrillo School District? 54% said no, I haven't seen anything recently. 38% did say yes, either a lot or a little. And if they did say yes, we asked an open-ended question, well, what have you seen or heard? So only 181 respondents are answering this question, but you can see we've divided those open-ended responses into different categories. They're a little bit hard to read on this slide, but the overall message that I want to convey is that there are a lot of different types of responses here. There's not one issue that really stands out as the overwhelming thing that people have seen or heard recently. We see some positive responses. For example, the schools are rebuilding, making improvements to the buildings, the kids are doing better, scores are improving. You see some kind of neutral comments like, oh, I just heard something from a parent, or I'm a parent in the district. And you see some negative comments about lawsuits and building leaks and issues like that. So lots of different kinds of responses and awareness of different things. So support for a potential bond measure. We asked this potential 75-word ballot question about a $99 million bond measure to update classrooms and science labs in local schools, perform essential safety repairs and maintenance on classrooms and facilities, including repairing leaky roofs, equipping classrooms with 21st century learning technology, replacing aging heating, cooling, and plumbing, and renovating, constructing, and equipping classrooms and facilities. So this, we modeled a couple different possible elections for the district. We wanted to look at the feasibility of this measure for November 2018 or June 2018. So what we did is looked at the demographics of likely voters in each election, and we weighted the data from this poll ever so slightly to be more like those who are likely to vote in November compared to those who are likely to vote in June. And what you can see is that there's really no difference, and that there's overwhelming support, way over the 55% threshold needed for passage, regardless of which model we're seeing. So for November, 66% solid support, and another 1% lean toward yes, for a total of 67. And with the June model, 65% solid support, with another 1% who lean yes, for a total of 66. So essentially 2/3 support today, and roughly 1/3 would oppose the measure today. For some context, we wanted to add this slide here, which shows you in the blue past elections for the district. In the red, it's elections where a measure passed. In the red, past elections where a measure failed. And in the purple, poll results that preceded some of these elections. So you can see, going back to the early 2000s, there were some measures that did not pass, but in recent years, we've definitely seen more success on the ballot for the district, including the 2014 $150 parcel tax measure that passed at 71%, which is very close to the level of support we're seeing today on this poll for a $99 million bond measure. So the potential components of a bond measure, we asked voters, we read them a list of possible components to be included in a potential measure, and asked on a scale of 1 to 7, 1 is not important at all, and 7 is extremely important. How important is each of the following to you? And these are the components that rose to the top of the list among those that we read to voters. Replacing leaky roofs, 55% rated that as a 7, extremely important, and another 32% somewhat important. So almost universally, this is important to voters. Keeping schools clean, well-maintained, and in good condition. 87% overall consider that important, with 41% extremely important. Performing essential safety repairs and maintenance on classrooms and facilities. 49% extremely important, and 36% somewhat. Updating classrooms and science labs. Upgrading fire and earthquake safety. Equipping classrooms with 21st century learning technology. So many of these priorities we know are among the top priorities for this district, and they are also those individual components that we've tested in the potential 75-word ballot statement, which leads us to the conclusion that it's a pretty good ballot statement, might not need very much tweaking if you move forward toward the ballot. These are among those top projects that we want to sort of lead with in any conversation about a ballot measure. Then we also, moving further in the poll, had an opportunity to present some more in-depth themes around a potential measure, and we wanted to see how those resonate with the the voter community. With the statement, is this a very convincing or somewhat convincing reason to support a potential measure? And those items that rise to the top among those we tested are those that have to do with maintaining local control over the funds, oversight of the funds, and accountability, as well as messages around attracting and retaining teachers by updating classrooms. So those are among the top pieces, but we really do see, as you can see on this slide, the writing is small, but a lot of the pieces of information that we tested, including the local control and accountability, retaining and attracting teachers, also the need for basic repairs on facilities that are nearly 50 years old, and then equity, so ensuring that schools in the district will have up-to-date science labs, computers, and learning technology so that students are prepared to excel in the 21st century economy. All of these are among the top pieces of information that are important for voters to understand would be accomplished through a potential measure. So after presenting this information, including the components and the messages in favor of a measure, we asked again, we read the potential 75-word statement and asked, given what you've heard, would you vote yes or no? And you don't see a lot of change over the course of the poll. It seems like voters are fairly set in whether they would support a measure or oppose it. So although the individual pieces are important and compelling and helpful, we don't see a lot of movement when we ask again about whether they would support or oppose the measure. We also know that there is a chance that there will be members of the community who might oppose a measure. So we wanted to understand how some of those potential opponents' messages might resonate. We did test one overall negative opponent's message over the web, and we pieced it apart over the phone where it's harder to hear everything at once. So in the version that we tested on the web, some people say there are too many taxes. We're already paying for other taxes in the area. This is enough is enough, something we might hear from an opponent. And that does resonate as very convincing for 30% among those who took the survey online, and somewhat convincing for 31% for a total of 62%. Then various messages that you can see on this slide. We just don't need it. There's money left over from the previous measure. That resonates with roughly 50%. We can't trust the district to manage bond money. 48% find that at least somewhat convincing. If the school district just managed money better and reduced pensions and benefits, it wouldn't need this tax, something that we might hear from opponents. Again, 31% say that resonates. So even though we do see that some of these opposition messages seem to be compelling to voters, we then asked again, given everything you've heard, how would you vote on a measure? And you can see that we retained quite a bit of support, 68% at the end of the poll after all those negative messages still say they would vote yes. So that's quite encouraging to us that although, yes, there are reasons why I might vote no, I'm still going to vote yes, is kind of what we're seeing through these results. So just a few notes in conclusion about the poll. Voters do continue to have generally positive opinions of the district. They recognize an additional need for funding. We do see the support for a $99 million bond measure in 2018, either in June or November. And support appears in this poll to be unaffected by opposition messaging. That doesn't mean we've simulated exactly what would happen in the real world. So we do think that the district should continue to inform the community about funding needs, and we think if a measure is placed on the ballot, a privately funded volunteer campaign would be necessary. So I'm going to invite Joy back to the podium and let me know if you have any questions at all. We have lots of additional numbers, so if you have questions about crosstabs or anything else, feel free to let me know.
So, looking at the numbers, you do have two options in 2018. You could go in June or you could go in November. Since there is really no difference between June and November, we recommend taking a serious look at June. There is about 16,000 registered voters in your community. Turnout for a June election will be a little bit lower than it will be in November. More people will turn out in November. It gives us an opportunity really to get our message out a little bit better. We won't be stuck trying to overcome the noise of a gubernatorial election. There will be a primary, but because so many less people will be actually turning out to vote, it gives us an opportunity to contact one-on-one with more voters. So we think the turnout for a June election will be just under 8,000 voters, which is about 48%. That means in order to win a bond, a GO bond, you would need 55%, and that would be about 4,276. Because we have done so many, previous elections, when we just did our parcel tax with the district, we do have a little list of previous supporters that we'd be able to reach out to. And that's almost 4,000 voters. We can't guarantee all of those will vote, but those are people in the past who have said they're supportive of the school district and they would vote to support a measure. So you can see we're well on our way to 55% just with the people that we've already talked to. So then we need to look at the timeline if you were serious about a June election. Right now we are in that red section, the feasibility study. It would be your choice of whether to move forward, and you could just decide, let's move forward and start conversations in our community. And I think that would be a very good way to go forward. You could start to gain additional feedback from key community leaders. We could help the superintendent build some communication materials, do some presentations in the community, build that consensus that'll be really important. It'll show that the district's being very transparent about the needs, which people we see from the polling agree that there is some needs and they'd be willing to support that. And when we know that the consensus is there, we can work on building that strong measure. So that includes putting the resolution together, writing the 75 words that voters would see on the ballot. The deadline for a June election is March 9th. So the board would have to meet before March 9th in order to place a measure on the ballot for June. At that point, an independent advocacy campaign made up of volunteers would take over. The district could continue to provide information. They just couldn't do the part where you say, vote yes. So it's informational. People had questions, the district could answer those questions and tell them what the board decision was and what the features would be, but they couldn't take it the next step. That would be the job of the advocacy campaign. So, taking a look at all the numbers overall, we do think that if, you do this initial outreach and we think about this timeline, school will come back in August. That's a great time to really start that initial outreach. You'll have August, September, and October, and early November. Then it's really hard to reach people, over the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and December. People are gone a lot, they're just busy, it's much harder to reach people until the new year. And with you having to place a measure on the ballot by March 9th, it means that our time would be shortened in the new year. So it's really great that you have this opportunity now to start our outreach in August, and that's what we would recommend. I think I have November as well, just in case you're curious about the dates and the numbers there. I think June is a better time for you just because you won't be in such a crowded and noisy election environment. But I do have the November numbers here. The board would need to call the election by August 10th, so obviously it would give you a little bit more time if it were needed. If we did some of that outreach this fall and we found out, from the community, and I've certainly been in districts where that's happened, where we planned for June, but, we heard back from the community, actually, we need a little bit more time. We could be more helpful if you waited till November, and we did, and we're successful in November. Obviously, both of these, as we saw from the poll, would be fine, but I think targeting a June election might be slightly better for you. So, any questions for myself or Jessica?
Yeah, any questions? Do you have one? So first of all, thank you. This is an excellent body of research and excellent presentation, so thank you for all the really great hard work. This is tremendously informative. I had a question back on your slide where you compared the results for the November and June elections. It's slide 15, I think. Because you mentioned the demographics, basically
weighted the demographics expected for each of those two elections, and the results are really similar, does that mean the demographics are expected to be similar, or were there offsets that happened to get the same results at the end?
So the demographics are slightly different,
think so.
and my colleague Andy can explain in what ways. Usually a November electorate is just slightly younger, people who are less likely to turn out in more elections, so lower propensity voters would be more likely to turn out in November. Sometimes we see things like a higher percentage of renters compared to homeowners. There are some demographic differences, but in this case, the support is not dramatically different enough between those groups to make a big difference. So
those were it, exactly. Just slight differences in age and voting propensity.
But they're all supportive enough that it comes out to be the same.
Yeah. So we might see more older voters turn out in June, and so they don't necessarily have a close connection to kids in school, right? They may not be our parents. But even amongst that group in June, they're still saying, yes, we would support this, we see a need.
Thanks.
I'm near the same as Sophia. Sorry. I think you're going to me, but and these are great results. I mean, just better than we could have hoped for, I think, in terms of risks historically, as you've managed lots of campaigns. Has there been circumstances, and of course the answer is yes, but what kind of help us understand what could cause a significant shift from where here to somewhere else that the board should maybe be aware of or think about, was the economy or something cause that?
Obviously,
Just
there
some
are
sense of it.
there are always big things that could change an
Yeah.
environment. 2010 was a great example, right? We saw some very good poll results out there, but people were changing. There was a lot going on in our country in 2010. Demographics of voters changed, and it shifted the environment quite a bit. And those are things that are hard to know, right, at the time. But I would say the biggest shift that you will see is someone will get results back like this and they'll say, we need 55%. Look, our results say 66, 67. We don't have to do anything. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. When people fail, it's because they don't do something. Oftentimes, we have the support and we have all the information that we need. We see that our priorities match up. The things that you want to do are the same things the community wants to get done. And what happens is there's always going to be some opposition out there. And if they're getting their message out ahead of the district, being able to say, here are our needs, these numbers could change very dramatically. And that's why it's very important to take advantage of the time that you have. You were smart and you went out and surveyed the community to see what the support would be like. Now is the time to take advantage of this time and say, okay, now we can talk to our community and have a conversation and say, our priorities match up, and let's make sure that we move forward. It gives you plenty of time. If next November the political environment changes drastically, you can say, now is not a good time. We can wait till November and see what the environment is then. But to do nothing between now and then would be a huge mistake.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joy and Jessica. I really appreciate the presentation. This is not really a discussion item, and we're also missing 2 of our members, so I'm sure that we will take this up more in August and September at our next board meetings. But I just want to say to the community, thank you again. We've had such tremendous support in the past for our parcel taxes and our bonds, and we are doing great work at Hatch and with some of our fields, and the things that people don't really think about with our bond. We now have one-to-one technology in almost all of our schools, and that is thanks to the support from this community. And so it was just very inspiring to see that the community has continued, at least vocalized through the poll results, that they continue to support this school district. It's what makes this community and this school district a really special place to be. So thank you for illustrating that for us and for coming to make the presentation. Thank you. Moves us to item 12A, discussion items. Discuss the current facility use rate schedule. Crystal? Jane?
So currently, Cabrillo Unified School District has a facilities use schedule for groups that wish to use the school district facilities. fields, classrooms for things other than our normal educational purposes. You have a copy of that use schedule in the board packet. The schedule has been adopted a number of years ago, and at this point, we are bringing to the board the question of, do we want to do anything to modify that schedule? It's been a number of years since we've had this conversation, and so we bring it to the board tonight as a discussion item, not asking for a decision, but simply asking the governing board to take a look at the facilities use agreement and see if there are any potential changes and things they'd like to discuss.
Okay. Great, thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a comment. I think, I'm afraid I've been through this cycle back when we did the rates, and it's definitely a different economic time. But to mirror a phrase where the community's been so ultimately supportive of the district and the children, and really we are in many ways the gathering place for the community. And I believe there's a general sentiment, we don't want this to be a profit center, and for groups that are nonprofits or serving the youth of the coast in a meaningful way and providing access to services for kids who don't maybe have the economic ability to participate if they had to pay on their own. I think there's an openness to look at reducing the current rate schedule to something to be more accommodating to the community.
Great. Also, Kirk and Kim couldn't be here tonight, but Kirk had some comments on this, so I would like to read those. Although not able to attend this meeting, I do wish to comment, perhaps, I think the most common complaint from users paying the fees is that the fees don't reflect the services received. This is the common perception, so I suggest that we need to be more transparent about the fees to illustrate the realities. For example, we should clarify that the primary goal of user fees is cost recovery. All facilities have to receive custodial care to the same standards after any use. There are specific work rules that govern our employees who provide the services, e.g. overtime pay, minimum hours per event for their presence for even a short time, etc. So the fees should reflect recovering actual costs incurred by CUSD as stewards of public property. The for-profit, non-profit differential is hard to justify based on the above. Access might favor nonprofits as a tiebreaker, but otherwise first come, first served means most equitable to me for the same wear and tear. From Kirk. Yeah, I just want to echo Rob's comments. I think that our school facilities are really of use for the whole community. There are not a lot of other public facilities on the coast to be used by dance schools or for the Boy Scouts or other organizations. Some of them might happen to be for-profit, but they still provide a service in our community, and I think that we need to, as a board and a district, figure out a way of making that the most equitable so that we can continue to provide this service to the community in the most cost-effective way. I agree that we should be able to recoup our actual costs coming to custodial service, but that we should figure out a way of allowing the most and beneficial use from our community. I also agree that it'd be great if we could have some criteria which would encourage folks to offer scholarships to kids who maybe needed it on the coast if they're going to be using these reduced rates for our facilities. So again, we have two of our board members missing. I think it's always important to get everybody's views. Perhaps we could table the discussion for now and move it forward to August or September with a more concrete proposal. We could have it as a discussion item and then following action, and then that would also give groups that might already be gone and finished with their events and off for the summer time to also weigh in on some of these proposals.
Would you like me to bring a proposal back or just back for discussion?
I think that we should have some kind of proposal back either in August or September, but let's figure out which date would make the most sense to have that, and I can work with Jane as president to schedule it for one of those agenda times. But I think that that would be useful.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree conceptually with the comments so far as well, and from my perspective, to react to a concrete proposal to put in place the concepts that have been discussed would be really helpful.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you all. Might be our world's shortest meeting. Okay, takes us to item 13.
Literally.
Communications. Board members.
I'll start. We're on. All right. I had a chance to officiate at a couple of the promotion ceremonies with Freya at Cunha, and it was just a very joyous and outstanding event. My daughter was moving on to the high school, so it was a special treat for me to be able to be on stage with her. But I also want to recognize and appreciate the partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, that facility, and I didn't get a chance to participate the next night at the high school, but it is truly something special. Getting back to the theme of accommodating our community where we gather. It was a beautiful night regardless, but if we had weather, we were protected. The acoustics are fantastic. There's just a real sense of pride in that room. So thanks to partnership with the Boys and Girls Club and the community for helping us fund that. And then I had the treat, I'd never been up at Kings Mountain, and was there with Joy. And what just a totally different affair. I mean, at the Cunha, we whipped through in 55 minutes all of those graduates. I mean, it was like clockwork. I'd say in an hour and 45 minutes, we did 12 kids at Kings Mountain, but very intimate. Each kid got to speak and tell their story, and their classmate in the 4th grade did the same thing, and that was a skill development for them that I thought was great. And the staff was so caring, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful day, a different setting up there. So I've been very lucky to participate. Freya told me how wonderful it was, and she was spot on. So that's it for me. It was great. Happy summer.
Similarly, congratulations again to all our graduates out there and congratulations to all our graduates and promoted students out there, and our teachers and staff for surviving yet another fun-filled year. I also had the opportunity to officiate a couple of promotions at Hatch Elementary and Fairlawn View, and it was just a ton of fun to see these kids get to this important milestone in their academic careers, and just the flavor that each school had to their promotions was a lot of fun. You could tell the kids were just really excited and glad to be there, and probably also glad that summer vacation was happening about half hour later. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun, and congratulations again to all.
So as well, I, with Rob, attended the Cunha graduation. That was my first time attending that, and it ran like clockwork. We got through with all the hands and the passing in that 45 minutes or so. The speeches were also really wonderful. There was a real focus on student speeches, which I just think is really wonderful. The citizenship awards, which I hadn't seen actually awarded. And I think that's a wonderful way of honoring students for not just their grades or being top of their class, but for all that they do and contribute to the school community and all that they do with their life. And I think that that's a real model for our district as a whole. We create lots of top performing students who go on to great schools. Congratulations to the high school with their current graduating class. But we also really focus on every kid achieving what is best for them and becoming that whole person and all of those aspects. And I think that that's a really important part of education, and one that we're really good at and continuing to get better at. So that was wonderful. And then I got to go to El Granada and had never been there before. And again, having been at Fairlawn and been at Kings Mountain, it's wonderful to see the different character at all of the different schools with their graduation. So that was really nice. And it's summertime now, so as reflected by very few people here. So congratulations to all the graduates. Thank you to all the teachers and staff, some who finished up, some who are continuing when summer school starts in a week and a half, and administrative staff as well. So appreciate everything. Thank you.
So I also had the great pleasure of attending Cunha and also both high schools, Pilarcitos and Half Moon Bay High School. You are right, the Boys and Girls Club, the whole gym is a remarkable place to hold a commencement. It was orange carpet on the high school night. There was orange red carpet all the way down, so those kids could walk on their school colors one last time. It was a very intimate affair. Many tassels and sashes and things on our kids, not only reflecting the grade point average, but reflecting citizenship and compassion and caring. There was not a speech made by any of the high school on both sides, both high schools, that did not reflect the words kindness and the ability to be kind and how to treat other human beings. We have a lot, this community has a lot to be proud of in its youth. And it was well reflected in all of those graduations, and it's a great reminder why it is we do what we do, all the hours we spend, all the hours the teachers and the staff and the principals and the school board and all of us spend are epitomized when those kids come walking across that stage and on their way to life. Couldn't be happier, and it's a thrill to be a part and to be attending that. And so congratulations, everyone. Well-deserved summer break, summer school getting underway. It's one of our biggest summer schools ever. So we're very excited about it, and that starts next week. And thank you to everyone who will be involved with our summer school. And thank you to the governing board. This ends my second year as superintendent of Cabrillo Unified. And it's hard to believe, and it's been a blast. And thank you very much.
Great. No student board member today. Oh, it's superintendent. Okay, move to item 14, sorry. Consent items. Do I have a motion to approve the consent items? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. That takes us to action items. 15A, approve the proposed English and Spanish language arts textbook adoption at Hatch Elementary School.
So at our last board meeting, I present.
Is that right? I'm sorry, my agenda is backwards.
Okay.
So at the last board meeting, I presented our Wonders and Maravillas adoption for Hatch Elementary School. I'm bringing it back for approval. I did note that Trustee McCammon did mention that she wants us to consider too the work that we've done with Reading and Writing Workshop in the past and making sure that we consider how those two pieces are implemented together. So I will be working with the Hatch teachers as well as the new principal at Hatch, David Porcel, so that we, pending approval, sorry, in order to be able to work toward that.
Great. Thank you. A motion to approve?
I believe it's your turn.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you, Joy. Takes us to item 15B, approve the Cabrillo Unified School District and California School Employees Association negotiated agreement for July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2018.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I would like to thank and show my appreciation for Diane Paoli, our CSEA president, and also to Stig Lynn, the chief negotiator for CSEA, for working collaboratively with the district to bring this agreement to the governing board this evening for approval. We had 2 full days of negotiation, and I felt the tone and atmosphere was really genuinely interest-based, collaborative-based, and I think we worked well together as a new team. We are presenting to the governing board this evening, following the governing board recent approval of the teachers' CUTA agreement at a previous meeting, an agreement for CSEA staff that includes a 3% salary increase effective July 1, 2017. And we are also presenting to the governing board this evening some contractual language change to the articles for promotion and vacation. The changes to the language are included within the materials for the board packet, specifically 13.1.1, where we have really memorialized the current practice of electronically sending all job notification announcements to unit members. We routinely post those in the staff room, but more in a user-friendly capacity to make sure that every CSEA member receives one electronically. So the opportunity for promotion from within, which will again emphasize in Cabrillo as a standard practice, is one of the highest promotional rates in the 4 districts that I've worked in, and we intend to continue that, promoting competent employees from within. You'll also notice within the promotion article that we are going to continue to offer qualified CSEA unit members who have passed the prerequisite test the opportunity to interview for open positions. And if a unit member does not receive that promotion, as we do currently, they can have the opportunity to meet with me, meet with personnel to discuss reasons for not receiving that promotion, which have been very minimal in the 11 years that I've been here. The second contractual language component has to do with vacation. And this was a tough one for both parties. Being able to approve on a fixed and regular basis vacations for unit members that are accruing 22 paid vacations on an annual basis for veterans that have been here over 10 years is tough, and notably for the MOT department, the maintenance operation and transportation department, who work very, very hard, especially during the summer month, preparing and cleaning our schools for day one. And of course, that's a time when people want to take vacation. So I think in the interest of coming up with a resolution, not in a rushed capacity, it was proposed, if I may say, by our superintendent to form an advisory committee with management and also CSCA leadership, and actually to come up with a document that we will bring back to help us resolve this issue. There is a liability to the district as these days continue to accrue, and we need to address that issue. But we also want to be able to approve vacation for employees who work hard day in and day out and have showed great loyalty to the district. So I'm confident, as you will see in the proposal to the governing board this evening, that this team, this collaborative team, will be able to come up with some resolutions to this predicament. So it's actually with great excitement that I present this to the governing board this evening, the 3% salary increase, and also the proposed contractual language to promotion and vacation.
Great, thank you, John. A motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second? Okay, any questions, comments, discussion?
Thanks to CSCA and all of our staff working together for a really winning outcome for all involved. Recognize all the efforts and from our staff, so we're thrilled. So thank you.
Same here. Thanks for the collaboration. I think that's the key here, and thanks for making the numbers work, Crystal. But let it not, lest it be unsaid. So good work.
Yeah, thank you to the negotiating team and to CSCA, and it always feels good when we're able to reward our employees and say thank you for all the hard work that you all do. So thank you. It's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to actually get a little bit more money in terms of appreciation. So I'm glad it worked, Crystal. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes 3-0. It takes us to item 15C. Approve the Cabrillo Unified School District Management and Confidential Compensation Agreement for 2017-2018.
And as we have done in the past, operating under a Me Too provision, we are also proposing to the governing board a 3% salary increase for our confidential employees, which we have two in the district, one in the superintendent's office, one in personnel, and also for the district management team. You can see the enclosed salary schedule, which recently was approved by the board maybe 2 or 3 years ago, which includes 7 steps. And that was newly proposed to the governing board. Historically, we've had a one set salary, annual salary. So in addition to recently creating this 7-step salary schedule, in the consistency of past practice, we are proposing to the governing board to approve the 3% increase to the management and confidential salary schedule.
Okay. Thank you, John. Do I have a motion to approve? Second?
I'll second.
Any comments, questions, discussion?
I think it's just important to recognize also the hard work of our staff, so thank you so much, Valerie.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. It moves us to item 15D, approve and adopt the local control accountability plan for the 2017-2018 school year.
Last month, earlier this month actually, I presented the local control accountability plan with the revisions that you've provided for suggestions, as well as the suggestions from the county office. We present to you the final version of our local control accountability plan for your approval today.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the LCAP?
Make a motion to approve the account.
Second? Any comments, questions, discussion?
I'd like to make a comment, if I might. And the comment is a congratulatory comment. This LCAP is a monumental task. And it takes hundreds of community meetings, input coming from staff, from community, from pretty much anybody that we can get input on the instructional programs of this school. And having done it twice, I can tell you that it just sort of eats all the time. Joy has done an outstanding job this year. I really want to congratulate her. I want to congratulate Crystal. Also, I know the financial end of this. The county is getting more and more and more picky about what it wants and more disclosures about what we do. Actually, a little bit beyond the scope of the LCAP. Literally, the changes were coming to both of these ladies to within 4 to 5 hours, and a huge thank you to Patty, who really just kept holding and holding and holding and waiting for the last drop of this LCAP, and we received the approval of, that the county has approved this LCAP. So what you see is once you approve it, will be approved by the county.
Do we already have a motion? Yes, we did. Okay. Comments, questions, or discussion from the board? Just want to second Jane's thank you to Joy and to other district staff, to Crystal who worked on this, but also to all of our site leaders and to all of the different meetings I called out before when we were discussing and holding the public hearing on the LCAP, how many meetings this was discussed in terms of our educational strategic plan. And I think that that's a really important part of the LCAP. I think never before has kind of a larger document like this been required to actually have so much public input and be so transparent about what is going on in the community, what our needs are, and how we're addressing those. So I think that that's very commendable as well. Still really enjoy the fact that we can create our own measures for our success and not simply be judged by CASP or other state or federal testing scores. And I think that that's a really important part of the LCAP. I just want to pull one thing out just for future thoughts for the next LCAP, because I'm sure we're already thinking about that. There was one comment that came up that when I was looking back through the LCAP this time, and again, the new version is great, it's so clean, I really appreciate that. There was the, extracurricular and kind of mentor type of things, and I just think that for the next year or for the year after, we should think about how we explore that more as well. I think we're doing the survey of that after-school activities for this next year, which I think is really important. I want to call that out as well, because I think that that's a really important part of making sure that kids are engaged in lots of different things. But I think for the following year, maybe we can take that one step further as well, just that one comment. But great that the county approved it, so congratulations. I know that when Jane first got here, her July was spent rewriting the LCAP because of county suggestions, so she's probably very happy not to have to do that now, as well as Joy, then go and have their summer vacations. So anyways, all in favor? Bless you. Aye. Passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. It takes us to item 15E, approve and adopt the proposed budget for the 2017-2018 school year.
As presented earlier in June, the proposed budget for 17-18 now follows in the shadow, I must say, of the LCAP. So long are the days where the budget just got to shine by itself in June, but I don't mind sharing that spotlight. But it really has called attention to how districts spend their money, how they allocate their money, and then the programs, and then the measurements of those programs. So it is nice to have that added transparency and to start to see the budget follow with a document that is so very well detailed. So tonight I do bring you and ask your approval to adopt the proposed budget for 17-18 that was presented to you and had a public hearing earlier in June this month.
Great, thank you, Crystal. Do I have a motion to approve the proposed budget for the 2017-2018 school year? A second?
I'll second.
Any comments, questions, or discussion? Thank you again to Crystal for pulling all the numbers together, and also once again a thanks to this community, because we wouldn't be having a balanced budget if it wasn't for our parcel taxes. We wouldn't be having the construction that we're having if it wasn't for the bonds. So given the fact that the state is still not funding us to the adequate levels, and who knows what will happen with the federal government, we really, really appreciate the support of our community. All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. takes us to item 15F, adopt resolution number 15-17, authorizing the district to spend funds received in 2016-2017 from the educational protection account in accordance with Article 13, Section 36 of the California Constitution.
Yes, this is a standard resolution that is brought to the board each June to account for and for the business office to recommend how we spend these dollars. When we first started receiving these dollars, we were a basic aid district, so they were over and above what we were receiving as far as revenue straight from our property taxes. Now that we're an LCFF district and or a revenue limit, when we flipped, it's a part of our just natural funding mechanism each year, so it's not unfortunately over and above as it once was. So my recommendation, the district is proposing to apply these education protection funds towards the instructional services items within the budget for 16-17.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 15-17?
Motion.
Okay, second. Any comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, it's a roll call vote. Aye. Aye. It passes 3-0. Thank you, Crystal. It takes us to item 15G, conduct a public hearing and adopt resolution number 16-17 for award of the energy performance contract with Climate Tech LLC.
So over the past couple of years, or actually dating all the way back to November 6th of 2012, California voters approved Prop 39, which is the California Clean Energy Jobs Act, which took funding from larger revenue corporations throughout the state to redistribute some of those tax dollars to bring down energy costs for school districts and public agencies. So the process is quite a lengthy process. This district has done an energy audit as well as submitted to the state an expenditure plan that has to be approved before we actually can spend these dollars. So these dollars are actually quite difficult to spend. They have very specific ways that they can be spent, and so I'm pushing obviously for new heaters and in different ways to do that. And so what we did was we did a request for a proposal to energy companies to see how we can most effectively spend these dollars. So the reason why there is a resolution with the approval of this contract is because of the requirements within energy contracts. It's very different than our standard lease-back contracts and our other construction contracts. So tonight I bring you a resolution and ask for the award of the energy performance contract to Climate Tech, which will allow us to be reimbursed for the lighting projects that we've already done, the switch over to LEDs at our sites, and then also to focus some of this funding towards replacing some of the much needed heaters around the district.
Okay, great, thank you. Do I hold a hearing before the motion? Okay, I'd like to open a public hearing on the adoption of the award for the energy performance contract with Climate Tech LLC. Is there any members of the public that would wish to comment on this? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and ask for a motion to adopt resolution number 16-17 for award of the energy performance contract with Climate Tech. A second for the motion?
I have a second.
It's a roll call vote. Oh, any comments, questions, or discussion? It's great to finally get some of this money in to be doing some of the energy efficient stuff that we've talked about in the past, so and new heaters as well. So this is great to get this work done. Thank you, Crystal, for all your hard work on it. So a roll call vote? Aye. It passes 3-0. So it takes us to item 16, future board agenda items. Approve the quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints. Discuss the 2017-2018 district-wide and site staff development plans. Approve school site plans. And approve policy maintenance updates. Future events or dates, item 17. June 26th is the first day of summer school for the elementary. June 27th is the first day of summer school for the secondary. June 30th, all the school sites are closed for the summer. July 4th is a district holiday. July 26th, we will be having a special governing board meeting. August 10th is our next regular governing board meeting. And on June 26th, there will be modified front office hours for the district office. So we are not returning to closed session. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. I think it was our shortest meeting maybe ever. I don't know. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy your summer.